Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance and looked out at the stars. 3 years had passed since humans built their newest colony on the planet Kepler Prime. The planet sat hidden behind a large nebula that made it hard for other ships to find. Jake thought this was good, because it kept the colony safe from trouble. The morning had brought a message that made Jake worry. Ambassador Veltar from the Galactic Council wanted to meet with him right away. The message said humans were breaking rules about where they could build new homes among the stars. Jake did not understand this because humans had always followed the Council's rules very carefully. Dr. Lisa Carter worked in the science lab below the bridge. She was smart and good at understanding alien languages. For weeks, she had been looking at the messages that came from the Council ships. Something was wrong with the way the aliens talked to humans. The words they used in their own language did not match what they said the words meant in human language. Lisa walked onto the bridge and found Jake looking worried. She carried a small computer pad with her work on it. "Jake, I need to show you something important," she said. "The Council messages are not what they seem to be." Jake turned to look at her. "What do you mean?" Lisa touched the screen of her pad and showed Jake 2 columns of text. "Look at this. When Ambassador Veltar says he wants to give us guidance, the alien words really mean containment. When he talks about partnership, the real meaning is subjugation." Jake felt cold inside his chest. "Are you sure about this?" "I have checked it many times," Lisa said. "The Council is lying to us. They are not trying to help humans. They want to control us, or maybe even hurt us." Jake called Admiral Greg Sullivan on the communication system. The Admiral was in charge of the small group of human ships that protected the colonies. His face appeared on the main screen looking serious. "What is it, Jake?" "Lisa found something bad, Admiral. The Council messages are not honest. They might be planning something against us." Admiral Sullivan was quiet for a moment. "Bring Dr. Carter to my ship right away. I want to hear everything she knows. And Jake, tell no one else about this until we understand what we are dealing with." 2 hours later, Jake and Lisa sat in a meeting room on the Admiral's ship UES Guardian. With them was Intelligence Officer Maya Rodriguez. Maya was good at finding secrets and understanding what enemies might do. She had been working on something that would shock everyone in the room. Maya put her own computer pad on the table. "Dr. Carter is right about the messages," she said. "But it is worse than just lying. I have been tracking Council ship movements for 6 months. They have been cutting off our supply routes to other human colonies. They tell us that other alien species do not like humans and want to fight us. But I found proof that this is not true." She touched her screen and showed a map of space. Red lines showed where human ships usually traveled between colonies. Many of the red lines now had X marks on them. "The Council has been telling other aliens not to trade with us. They say humans are dangerous and might attack. This is why we cannot get supplies or talk to other colonies easily." Admiral Sullivan leaned forward in his chair. "How long has this been happening?" "At least 2 years, Maya said. "Maybe longer. The Council has been working to make humans weak and alone. They want us to think we have no friends in the galaxy." Lisa looked at the map and felt scared. Why would they do this to us? Humans have always been peaceful. We follow their rules. We do not try to take things that belong to others. Maya touched her screen again and showed them pictures of human colonies. "I think they are afraid of something about humans. Look at these reports. Every time humans build a new colony, we make it better than anyone expected. Our technology grows faster than other species. Our people learn to work together better than aliens do. Maybe the council thinks we will become too strong. Jake thought about his own crew on the Defiance. It was true that humans were good at making things work better. Engineer Danny Walsh could fix almost anything and make it work better than before. Pilot Kate Wilson could fly ships in ways that amazed alien pilots. But we use our skills to help people, not hurt them. Admiral Sullivan stood up and walked to the window that looked out at space. Maybe that is exactly what scares them. If humans become strong enough to help everyone, the Council might lose their power to control the galaxy. Maya had more bad news to share. Admiral, there is something else. I have been watching the communication signals from Council space. 3 days ago, they sent coded messages to many of their warships. The messages all mentioned human colonies. Warships. Jake felt his heart beat faster. Are they planning to attack us? I think so, Maya said, and I think it will happen soon. As if her words had made it happen, an alarm began to sound throughout the ship. A voice spoke over the communication system. Admiral Sullivan to the bridge immediately. Unknown ships approaching the colony. Everyone ran to the bridge. The main screen showed space around Kepler Prime. Coming out of the nebula were 12 large ships. They were not human ships. They had the strange curved shape that the Council species used for their war vessels. The communication officer spoke to the Admiral. Sir, we are getting a message from the lead ship. It says Ambassador Veltar wants to speak with you. Put him on screen, Admiral Sullivan said. The alien appeared on the main screen. Veltar looked like a tall human, but his skin was blue and he had 4 eyes. When he spoke, his voice sounded friendly, but his eyes looked cold. Admiral Sullivan, I bring greetings from the Galactic Council. We have come to discuss important matters about human expansion in this sector. Admiral Sullivan looked calm, but Jake could see anger in his eyes. Ambassador, your ships look like war vessels, not diplomatic ships. Why do you need weapons to talk? Veltar made a sound that might have been laughter. The galaxy can be dangerous. Admiral, we must protect ourselves. Now, we need to discuss relocating your colony. This system belongs to the Council, Lisa whispered to Jake. He is lying. This system was empty when we came here. No one owned it. Admiral Sullivan spoke carefully. Ambassador, our records show this system was unclaimed. We followed all Council rules when we built our colony here. Your records are wrong, Veltar said. His voice was not friendly anymore. This system has always belonged to the Council. Your people must leave immediately. And if we refuse? Admiral Sullivan asked. Veltar's 4 eyes seemed to glow brighter. Then we will help you leave. The screen went dark. Veltar had ended the communication. For a moment, no one on the bridge spoke. Then Maya looked at her instruments and said, something that made everyone's blood feel cold. Admiral, the Council ships are powering up their weapons. All 12 ships are targeting our colony. Admiral Sullivan turned to his communication officer. Send a message to all human ships in the colony. Tell them to prepare for attack. The Council has shown us who they really are. Jake thought about the people living on Kepler Prime. There were families there, children, people who had come to build a peaceful life among the stars. Now they were about to be attacked by the very aliens who were supposed to keep peace in the galaxy. But Jake also thought about something else. He remembered stories his grandfather told him about humans in the old days on Earth. When humans were threatened, they did not just give up, they fought back. and when humans fought for their families and their homes, they could do amazing things. Looking at the Council warships on the screen, Jake wondered if the aliens really knew what they were about to face. Maybe they thought humans would be easy to defeat because humans were peaceful. Maybe they had forgotten that being peaceful and being weak were not the same thing. The battle was about to begin, and the Council was about to learn something important about humanity. They were about to learn that threatening human families was the worst mistake anyone could make. The first Council weapons hit the colony shields like thunder from space. Lieutenant Colonel Sam Parker felt the ground shake under his feet as he ran toward the defense center. His sister, Dr. Amy Parker, was already there, working at her computer, while explosions lit up the sky above them. "How bad is it?" Sam asked as he reached her side. Amy looked up from her screen with worry in her eyes. "The shields are holding for now, but they will not last long. These Council weapons are stronger than anything we have seen before." Sam looked around the defense center. 20 human soldiers waited for his orders. They had trained for situations like this, but they never thought the peaceful Council would actually attack them. "What do we have to fight back with?" "Not much," said Sergeant Nina Foster. She was checking the weapons storage computer. "We have basic defense guns and some mining explosives. The Council ships have real war weapons." Outside, the sky flashed. Again, as more Council weapons hit the shields. The lights in the defense center flickered. Amy typed quickly on her computer and then stopped. Her face looked strange. "Sam, I need to show you something. I was looking through the old computer, files from Earth while the attack started. There are records here that I never saw before. Records about where humans really came from." Sam was busy planning the defense, but something in his sister's voice made him stop. "What do you mean where we came from?" "We came from Earth." Amy shook her head. "No, Sam. Humans came to Earth from somewhere else. Look at this." She turned her computer screen so Sam could see it. The screen showed very old text and pictures. The text was hard to read because it was so old, but Sam could see enough to understand what Amy was saying. According to these files, humans are not originally from Earth. We came there thousands of years ago after something bad happened to our real home among the stars. Earth was where we went to hide and heal. Another explosion shook the building. Sam knew he should be focusing on the battle, but what Amy was showing him seemed important. Why would our ancestors hide this information? "Maybe they wanted to forget," Amy said. "Look at these genetic charts. Human DNA has markers that show we used to be different, stronger, smarter, better at fighting. But something changed those genes, made them quiet." Engineer Danny Walsh ran into the defense center carrying a strange device. "Colonel Parker, I took this weapon from a Council ship that crashed near the South Settlement. I think I can figure out how it works." Sam looked at the alien weapon. It was curved and made of metal he had never seen before. Danny had already taken part of it apart. "How long will that take?" "Maybe an hour," Danny said. "But, Colonel, something weird is happening. When I touch this weapon, I understand how it works, like I already knew but forgot." Amy looked up from her computer with excitement. "Danny, that might be the genetic memory starting to work again. The old files say humans used to have natural understanding of technology and weapons." Pilot Kate Wilson's voice came over the communication system. "Colonel Parker, this is Kate. I am in a fighter ship trying to help with the defense. Something strange is happening up here. I am flying maneuvers that I never learned. It is like My hands know what to do without my brain telling them. Sam felt something stirring inside his own mind. When he looked at the tactical display showing the battle, he could see patterns in how the council ships moved. He could predict where they would attack next. This knowledge came from nowhere, like it had always been in his head waiting for him to need it. Amy, keep reading those files. Everyone else, we need to fight back now. Danny, work on that weapon. Nina, get everyone to the gun positions. While his people prepared for battle, Sam felt his mind becoming clearer and sharper. Ideas for tactics and strategies filled his thoughts. He knew exactly how to position the defense guns to do the most damage. He knew which buildings to evacuate first and which ones could be used as fortresses. The council commander, Zep Han, stood on his ship looking down at the human colony. He expected the humans to surrender quickly once they saw how powerful the council weapons were. Instead, the humans seemed to be getting more organized and more dangerous. "Commander, the human shields are still holding," reported his weapons officer. "And they have started firing back at us." Zep Han looked at his tactical display. The human weapons were weak, but the humans were using them in ways that surprised him. They focused all their fire on one council ship at a time instead of spreading their attacks. They hit the ships in places that caused the most damage. "How do these primitive humans know our ship weaknesses?" "Unknown, Commander. But we are taking more damage than expected." On the colony surface, Danny Walsh had finished working on the captured council weapon. But instead of just copying how it worked, he had made it better. He ran back to Sam with excitement on his face. "Colonel, I figured out how to make this weapon more powerful. But that is not the weird part. While I was working on it, I remembered things about weapons and technology that I never learned." Sam took the improved weapon and felt its weight in his hands. Somehow he knew exactly how to use it, even though he had never seen anything like it before. "What kind of things? Did you remember?" "I remembered working on ships and weapons that were much more advanced than anything humans have now. Like I used to build things like this a long time ago." Danny looked confused. "But that is impossible. I grew up on Earth," Amy called out from her computer. "Sam, I found more information. The genetic locks in human DNA are not permanent. When humans are in great danger, especially when their families are threatened, the locks start to break. The old abilities start to come back." Sam felt a strange sensation in his mind, like doors opening that had been closed his whole life. Suddenly, he understood tactics and strategies that seemed to come from someone else's memories. He knew how to fight battles in space and on planets. He knew how to turn simple tools into powerful weapons. "Everyone listen to me," Sam said into his communication device. "Something is happening to all of us. We are remembering things our ancestors knew. Do not fight these new thoughts and abilities. Use them to protect our people." Kate Wilson's voice came back over the communications. "Colonel, I just destroyed a council fighter ship using a move I never learned. And I know I can do more. These alien ships fly in patterns that seem familiar to me now." Nina Foster was at the main defense gun when she felt the change happen to her. Suddenly she knew exactly where to aim to do the most damage to the council ships. She knew which parts of their ships were weak and which parts were strong. "Colonel, I think I can take down one of their big ships if you give me covering fire." Sam looked at the tactical display again. The council had 12 ships, but they were flying in formation patterns that seemed old and predictable to him now. He could see exactly how to break their formation and make them vulnerable to attack. "All units, this is Colonel Parker. Execute attack pattern 7. His people responded immediately, even though no one had ever taught them attack pattern 7. Somehow they all knew what to do. The defense guns focused their fire on specific points on the Council ships. Kate Wilson led 3 fighter ships in a coordinated attack that broke the enemy formation. Danny Walsh used his improved weapons to target the Council ship sensors. Commander Zephan watched in shock as his formation fell apart. The humans were fighting like they had done this before. Their tactics were sophisticated and effective. "This is impossible. Intelligence reports said humans were a peaceful species with limited military knowledge. Commander, we have lost 2 ships and 3 more are heavily damaged. The humans seem to know exactly how to hurt us." Zephan looked at the colony below. Instead of the quick victory he expected, he was watching his force get torn apart by opponents who should have been easy to defeat. "Send a message to Council headquarters. Tell them the humans are not what we thought they were." Back in the Defense Center, Amy made a discovery that changed everything. She found the final piece of information about human origins. "Sam, I know what we really are. Humans are not just refugees from another world. We are the descendants of the people who used to rule this galaxy. We are the children of the Terran Dominion." Sam felt the last of the genetic locks break open in his mind. Thousands of years of memories flooded back. Not his own memories, but the memories of his ancestors who had commanded vast fleets and ruled hundreds of worlds. They had been the greatest military force the galaxy had ever seen. "The Council species used to serve under human rule," Amy continued reading. "When the Dominion fell apart in a civil war, the survivors scattered and hid their memories. Earth was one of the hiding places." Sam understood now why the Council feared humans so much. They remembered being ruled by humanity's ancestors. They had spent thousands of years building their own power while humans slept. But now humans were waking up, and the old rulers were coming back. "All human colonies need to know about this," Sam said. "If the Council is attacking us, they will attack other colonies too. Our people need to remember who they really are." The battle for Kepler Prime was just the beginning. The Council had made the worst possible mistake. They had attacked the descendants of their former masters and awakened abilities that had been sleeping for millennia. Commander Rick Thompson stood among the ancient ruins on the planet Zerion 7, far from any Council territory. His ship, the UES Discovery, had been sent to study what everyone thought were alien artifacts. But as Rick looked at the carved symbols on the massive stone walls, he realized these ruins were not alien at all. Dr. Beth Morgan knelt beside a broken pillar, carefully brushing dust away from carved text. She was the best xenoarchaeologist in the human fleet. But what she was finding here challenged everything she thought she knew about galactic history. "Rick, these symbols are not from any known alien language," Beth said. "But they feel familiar somehow, like I should be able to read them." Rick touched one of the carved symbols and felt a strange tingling in his fingers. The symbol seemed to change before his eyes, shifting from meaningless lines into something he could understand. "Beth, I think I can read this. It says something about the Terran Dominion." Beth looked up from her work with excitement. "Terran means Earth-related, but how could there be Earth symbols here? This planet is hundreds of light years from Earth." Before Rick could answer, his communication device started making emergency signals. The voice of his communications officer came through clearly. "Commander, Thompson, we are receiving urgent messages from all human colonies. The Galactic Council has begun attacking human settlements. Kepler Prime is under assault." Rick and Beth ran back to their ship as fast as they could. On the bridge, the main screen showed reports coming in from across human space. The Council was not just attacking one colony, they were attacking all of them at the same time. "Sir, we have a message from Admiral Sullivan," said Communications Officer Linda Hayes. "He wants all human ships to return to defend the colonies, immediately." Rick looked back at the ruins they were leaving behind. Something important was here. Something that might help humans understand what was happening to them. "Beth, take a team back to those ruins. Work as fast as you can to record everything. I think what we find there might be the key to surviving this war." While the Discovery flew toward human space, Beth and her team worked day and night to translate the ancient texts. What they found was shocking. The ruins were not just similar to human culture. They were human culture, or rather, they belonged to the civilization that humans had descended from. "Rick, you need to see this," Beth called over the communication system. "These ruins are not ancient alien artifacts. They are the remains of human cities. Cities built by our ancestors thousands of years ago." Rick left the bridge and went to the archaeology lab where Beth had set up her translation equipment. The walls were covered with pictures and text from the ruins. "What are you saying, Beth? That humans lived here before?" "Not just here," Beth said with excitement. "Everywhere. Rick, humans used to control a third of this galaxy. The Terran Dominion was the most powerful civilization in known space. These ruins are just one of thousands of human worlds that existed before something terrible happened." Beth showed Rick a carved stone tablet that told the story of the Dominion's fall. "There was a civil war, Rick. Not a war against aliens, but a war between different groups of humans. One group believed in ruling the galaxy through force and control. The other group believed in freedom and cooperation." Rick studied the ancient text as Beth translated it. "Which side won?" "The freedom side won, but the cost was enormous. The galaxy was devastated by the fighting. To prevent it from happening again, the survivors made a terrible decision. They scattered themselves across space, hiding their memories and abilities. They wanted to forget their power so they could never be tempted to abuse it again." As Beth spoke, Rick felt something changing in his mind. It was like the feeling he had when he touched the symbols in the ruins, but stronger. Memories that were not his own began to surface. He remembered commanding great fleets of ships. He remembered worlds where humans had built cities that reached into the clouds. The genetic suppression was not permanent. Beth continued reading from the ancient texts. "The ancestors built safeguards into human DNA. If humans were ever in great danger, if their survival was threatened, the old abilities would return. The old memories would awaken." Linda Hayes' voice came over the ship's communication system. "Commander, we are receiving new reports from the battle zones. Something strange is happening to human fighters. They are performing maneuvers and using tactics that seem impossible for their level of training." Rick and Beth exchanged looks. "The awakening has begun," Beth said. "The Council's attacks have triggered the genetic safeguards our ancestors built into us." Rick felt more memories flooding back into his mind. He remembered battles fought among the stars, strategies for commanding hundreds of ships at once, technologies that could turn simple materials into powerful weapons. But more than that, he remembered the principles that the Terran Dominion had stood for in its final days. "Beth, what happened to the other species during human rule? Did we enslave them or conquer them?" Beth found the answer in another section of the ruins. "No, Rick. The Dominion was built on partnership, not conquest. The other species served willingly because humans protected them and helped them grow. The Council species were our administrators and advisors, not our slaves." This revelation shocked Rick. "You mean the current Council species used to work for humans?" "More than that," Beth said. "According to these records, the Council species begged humans not to leave when the Dominion was falling apart. They knew that without human leadership, the galaxy would become dangerous and chaotic. Rick thought about what this meant. The council species remembered being ruled by humans. They had spent thousands of years building their own power while humans slept. But they also knew that humans were capable of returning to their former strength. That was why they were trying to destroy humanity now, before the awakening could complete itself. Communications Officer Hayes called again. "Commander, Admiral Sullivan wants to speak with all ship commanders immediately." Rick and Beth went to the bridge where Admiral Sullivan's face appeared on the main screen. Behind him, they could see the lights of battle through the bridge windows of his command ship. "Commanders, the situation has changed dramatically. Our people are not just fighting better than expected. They are fighting like they have done this before." Admiral Sullivan looked tired but determined. "Captain Morrison reports that his crew is instinctively understanding alien technology. Engineer Walsh has improved captured Council weapons beyond anything we thought possible. Pilot Wilson is flying maneuvers that defy physics as we understand them." Rick spoke up. "Admiral, Dr. Morgan and I have discovered something important. Humans are not who we thought we were. We are the descendants of a galactic empire called the Terran Dominion. The genetic memories of our ancestors are awakening because of the Council's attacks." For a moment, Admiral Sullivan was silent. Then he nodded slowly. "That explains what I am feeling, too. Rick, I have been having dreams about commanding fleets. I never served on, fighting battles that happened before I was born. Are you saying these are real memories?" "Genetic memories passed down from our ancestors," Beth said. "The original humans who ruled this galaxy built safeguards into our DNA. When humans are threatened with extinction, we remember who we used to be." Admiral Sullivan's expression became grim. "Then the Council made a fatal error. They tried to destroy us before we could awaken, but their attacks are exactly what triggered our awakening." Rick felt the truth of this in his bones. Every human in the galaxy was beginning to remember. They were remembering technologies that could reshape matter at the molecular level. They were remembering battle tactics that could defeat enemies 10 times their size. They were remembering what it meant to be the guardians of galactic civilization. "Admiral, there is something else," Beth said. "The Council species used to serve under human rule. They are not just afraid of human technology or fighting ability. They are afraid that humans will remember we used to be their leaders." Admiral Sullivan smiled grimly. "Maybe it is time we reminded them. Rick, I want you to send copies of everything Dr. Morgan has discovered to every human ship and colony. Our people need to understand what they are becoming." As the discovery continued toward the battle zones, Rick felt the weight of ancient responsibility settling on his shoulders. Humans were not just fighting for their survival now. They were fighting to reclaim their role as the protectors of galactic peace and freedom. The memories continued to flow back. Rick remembered the core principle of the Terran Dominion. Strength was not for conquest, but for protection. Power was not for ruling others, but for serving justice. The galaxy had been peaceful under human leadership because humans had used their strength to stop wars, not start them. But the Council had forgotten this. They had spent so long accumulating power for themselves that they had forgotten what true leadership looked like. They thought humans would be like them, using strength for selfish purposes. They were about to learn that awakened humans were far more dangerous to tyrants than any simple conquerors would be. Rick looked out at the stars and felt the certainty growing in his mind. The Terran Dominion was gone, but its principles lived on in human genetics. Fleet Admiral Tony Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, watching reports pour in from across the galaxy. What the Galactic Council had planned as a quick extermination of humanity had turned into a nightmare that spread through their territory like fire through dry grass. "Admiral, Captain Wright is reporting from the Tau Ceti system," said Communications Officer Bobby Clark. "She used a cargo hauler to destroy a Council battleship. The enemy fleet has retreated from that sector." Tony looked at the tactical display showing human space. Red dots marked where Council forces had attacked. Green dots showed where human forces had won victories. There were far more green dots than anyone had expected possible. "How did Captain Wright destroy a battleship with a cargo ship?" Tony asked. "She loaded the cargo bays with mining explosives and rammed the Council ship at maximum speed. But she timed it perfectly to hit their engine core just as they were charging their weapons. The explosion took out 3 enemy ships." Tony felt pride mixed with worry. Ellen Wright was a good captain, but ramming enemy ships was incredibly dangerous. The fact that she had survived showed that humans were developing an almost supernatural understanding of alien technology and tactics. Commander Steve Adams's voice came over the communication system from the mining station at Rigel 4. "Admiral Rodriguez, this is Adams. We have held off an entire Council invasion fleet using mining equipment and freight containers. Request permission to go on the offensive." Tony could hardly believe what he was hearing. "Steve, you are at a mining station, not a military base. How did you stop an invasion fleet?" "We turned the asteroid mining lasers into weapons and used the ore processing equipment to build barriers. But Admiral, my crew is having the same experience everyone is reporting. We know things we never learned. We understand how to fight battles we never trained for." Dr. Rachel Green worked in the science department of the Retribution. She had been studying the genetic awakening that was happening to humans across the galaxy. "Admiral, I need to show you what we have discovered about Terran military doctrine." Tony left the bridge and went to Rachel's lab. The walls were covered with ancient texts and genetic analysis charts. "What have you found, Rachel?" "The awakening is not just giving humans back their old abilities," Rachel said. "It is restoring their old way of thinking about war and conflict. Terran military doctrine was completely different from what other species used." Rachel showed Tony a comparison chart on her computer screen. Other species fight for territory, resources, or power. They accept certain levels of casualties as the cost of doing business. But Terrans fought for principles. They fought to protect others, not to gain things for themselves. Tony studied the charts and felt recognition stirring in his mind. "What does that mean in practical terms?" "It means humans approach warfare fundamentally differently from everyone else," Rachel explained. "Where other species seek acceptable losses, humans seek total victory or total sacrifice. Where others fight to win battles, humans fight to win justice." As Rachel spoke, Tony felt more genetic memories awakening in his mind. He remembered commanding battles where human forces had been outnumbered 10-1, but had won through superior tactics and absolute refusal to give up. He remembered the core principle that had made the Terran Dominion successful. Never leave anyone behind, never accept injustice, never compromise with evil. "Rachel, are you saying that the Council does not understand how humans really fight?" "Exactly. They studied peaceful humans, humans who had forgotten their true nature. They planned for fighting farmers and merchants, not for fighting awakened descendants of the galaxy's former rulers." The communication system activated with an urgent message. "Admiral Rodriguez, this is Commander Martin reporting from deep space. My strike team has successfully infiltrated the Vega Council stronghold. We have captured 3 Council ships and are using their own weapons against them. Tony was amazed. Kyle Martin's team had been sent on what everyone thought was a suicide mission to gather intelligence behind enemy lines. Instead, they were winning battles in the heart of Council territory. How did you get past their defenses, Kyle? Admiral, we are moving through hyperspace in ways that make us impossible to track. My navigation officer suddenly understood how to manipulate space-time in ways our textbooks said were impossible. We appear in their systems, strike fast, and vanish before they can respond. Major Sandy Bell's voice joined the conversation from another location. Admiral, this is Bell reporting from the captured Council facility at Wolf 359. We have freed the alien prisoners the Council was holding here. Turns out the Council has been oppressing dozens of species, not just humans. This news changed everything. Tony had assumed the Council represented the will of the galaxy's species. But if they were oppressing others too, then humans were not fighting for their own survival. They were fighting to free everyone from tyranny. Sandy, what do these freed species want to do? They want to join us, Admiral. They say they have been waiting for someone strong enough to stand up to the Council. When they saw humans fighting, back successfully, they decided to take their own chances for freedom. Tony felt the weight of ancient responsibility settling on his shoulders. This was exactly what had happened when the Terran Dominion was at its height. Oppressed species had looked to humans for protection and leadership. History was repeating itself. But this time, humans understood the cost of power. Dr. Rachel Green had been listening to all the reports. Admiral, this is following the exact pattern from the ancient records. When the original Terran Dominion rose to power, it was not through conquest. It was because other species asked humans to protect them from bullies and tyrants. Tony thought about what this meant. So we are not just fighting a war for human survival. We are fighting a war to restore justice to the galaxy. Yes, and that is why human forces are performing so well. Every human instinctively understands that this is not about territory or resources. This is about protecting the innocent and stopping evil. That kind of motivation makes humans fight harder and smarter than any enemy expects. The tactical display updated with new information. Green dots were appearing deep inside Council territory as more alien species rebelled against their oppressors. The Council's empire was falling apart from within as subject species saw humans successfully resisting and decided to try for their own freedom. Admiral, we have a communication from Council High Command, Bobby Clark reported. They want to negotiate. Tony felt grim satisfaction. Tell them we will negotiate when they have released all their prisoners, withdrawn from all occupied territories, and surrendered their war criminals for trial. Sir, they say those terms are unacceptable. Then tell them we will continue liberating their territory until they become acceptable, Tony said. And Bobby, send a message to all human forces. Tell them we are no longer just defending ourselves. We are restoring freedom to the galaxy. As news of the human demands spread, more alien species joined the rebellion. The Zephyrians, who had been forced to fight for the Council, surrendered entire fleets to human commanders. The Altarians provided intelligence about Council weaknesses. The Centaurians offered their shipyards to build vessels for the liberation forces. Commander Kyle Martin reported again from behind enemy lines. Admiral, the Council leadership is in panic. They are pulling forces back from the frontier to protect their core systems. But their own people are starting to question why. They are fighting humans who are obviously trying to help everyone. Tony looked at the galaxy map and saw the truth that the Council had tried to hide. The Terran Dominion had not fallen because it was weak or corrupt. It had stepped aside voluntarily to prevent a civil war that would have devastated the galaxy. But the sacrifice had been wasted because the Council had proven to be even worse rulers than the worst humans had ever been. Major Sandy Bell sent another report. "Admiral, we have captured Council archive files that detail their long-term plans. They were not just trying to eliminate humans. They were planning to enslave or exterminate dozens of species they considered inferior." Tony felt cold anger building in his chest. The genetic memories of his ancestors showed him what the galaxy had been like under proper human leadership. Species had been free to develop their own cultures and governments. Trade had been fair and peaceful. Wars had been stopped before they could spread. The Council had turned the galaxy into a prison. "All ships, this is Admiral Rodriguez," Tony announced over the fleet communication system. "We are no longer fighting a defensive war. We are fighting a war of liberation. Every species that wants freedom is our ally. Every tyrant who oppresses the innocent is our enemy. We fight not for human dominance, but for galactic justice." The response from human forces across the galaxy was immediate and overwhelming. Ship captains reported that their crews were working with efficiency and coordination that seemed impossible. Engineers were solving technical problems in minutes that should have taken weeks. Pilots were performing maneuvers that redefined what space combat could be. Dr. Rachel Green made one final discovery that explained everything. "Admiral, I found the core programming in human genetic memory." Admiral Jake Morrison stood before the massive doors of the Council chambers on the capital world of Nexus Prime. Behind him stretched the largest human fleet ever assembled, but the real power came from the thousands of alien ships that had joined them. Species after species had chosen freedom over the Council's tyranny. Dr. Lisa Carter walked beside Jake, carrying the complete archives of human history that she had assembled from ruins across the galaxy. The truth about humanity's past was no longer hidden. Every species in the galaxy now knew that humans were the descendants of their former protectors and leaders. The Council chambers had been the center of galactic power for 3,000 years. The building itself was ancient, built during the height of the Terran Dominion and designed to hold representatives from every world in human space. Now it would serve the same purpose again, but this time the humans were not hiding their true nature. Premier Zakthon of the Council waited inside with the surviving members of his government. His species, the Nexari, had once served as administrators and record-keepers for the Terran Dominion. Like all the Council species, they remembered the old days even if they had spent centuries trying to forget. Jake entered the chamber and felt the weight of genetic memory settling around him like a familiar coat. He had stood in rooms like this before, though not in his own lifetime. His ancestors had governed the galaxy from chambers just like this one, making decisions that affected billions of lives across thousands of worlds. "Premier Zakthon," Jake said as he approached the center of the chamber, "your war against humanity is over." The Nexari leader was tall and thin, with the pale blue skin and large eyes that marked his species. He had ruled the Council for 20 years, but now he looked small and defeated. "Admiral Morrison, the Council wishes to discuss terms for ending this conflict." Lisa stepped forward and activated a holographic display that filled the chamber with images from the ancient archives. "There will be no negotiation between equals, Premier. Your species served the Terran Dominion faithfully for centuries. You know exactly who humans are and what authority we carry." The holographic display showed the true history of the galaxy. It showed the golden age when humans had maintained peace across thousands of worlds. It showed how the Terran Dominion had protected weaker species, and stopped larger ones from becoming aggressive. It showed the voluntary dissolution of human power to prevent a civil war. "We remember the old days," Zakthon said quietly. "We remember when humans protected us from the Vorthon Empire and the Kretak invasions. We remember when human fleets kept the trade routes safe and human courts settled disputes fairly." Jake felt satisfaction at the admission. "Then you also remember what happened when humans stepped aside. You remember how the galaxy descended into chaos and oppression." Captain Maya Rodriguez entered the chamber leading a group of freed alien prisoners. These were representatives of species that the Council had enslaved or nearly exterminated. They had asked to be present for the Council's surrender. "Admiral Morrison," said Torvan of the Deltari people, "my species was reduced from billions to thousands under Council rule. We ask that justice be done." Jake looked at the faces of the freed slaves and felt the ancient rage of his ancestors stirring in his blood. The Terran Dominion had one absolute rule: the strong protected the weak. The Council had violated that rule for centuries, and the price had to be paid. Premier Zakthon, the Council government is dissolved as of this moment. Your species will return to their homeworlds and await trial for crimes against galactic civilization. Zakthon fell to his knees in the ancient gesture of submission that his species had used when acknowledging Terran authority. Around the chamber, other council members did the same. The genetic programming that had been suppressed for millennia was reasserting itself. The galaxy remembered who the real rulers were. But Jake felt no satisfaction in seeing former enemies kneel before him. The memories of his ancestors carried a heavy burden. Power over others was not a prize to be enjoyed. It was a responsibility, to be carried with wisdom and humility. "Rise," Jake said to the kneeling council members. "Humanity does not seek your submission. We seek your cooperation in building a better galaxy." Lisa activated another section of the holographic display. This one showed the new structure that humans had designed for galactic government. "The Terran Dominion is gone. In its place, we establish the Free Galaxy Confederation. Every species governs itself according to its own culture and values, but all species agree to certain basic principles. The principles appeared in the holographic display in hundreds of languages. No species could enslave or exterminate another. No government could oppress its own people. Trade must be fair and voluntary. Disputes would be settled by negotiation or neutral arbitration, not by war. And if someone violates these principles?" asked Zakthon. Captain Maya Rodriguez answered, for Jake. "Then they face the human fleet and all our allies. We will not allow tyrants to hurt innocent people ever again." Engineer Danny Walsh entered the chamber carrying examples of the new technology that awakened humans had developed. Weapons that could disable aggressive fleets without killing crews. Medical devices that could heal injuries that had been thought permanent. Agricultural tools that could make dead worlds bloom with life. "We offer these gifts freely to all species that join the Confederation," Danny said, "but they come with responsibility. Those who receive the benefits of membership must also uphold its values." Jake felt the weight of ancient responsibility settling on his shoulders, but also the support of his ancestors' wisdom. The Terran Dominion had failed because it had tried to maintain peace through control. The Free Galaxy Confederation would maintain peace through justice and voluntary cooperation. Pilot Kate Wilson's voice came over the communication system from the human fleet in orbit. "Admiral Morrison, we have received surrender messages from Council fleets in 17 sectors. The last of their military forces have laid down their weapons." Jake looked around the chamber at the assembled representatives. Species that had been enemies hours before were now discussing how to work together. Former slaves were talking with former oppressors about building a future where such relationships could never exist again. Dr. Lisa Carter made the final announcement. The human fleet will establish garrison forces at strategic points throughout the galaxy to ensure the transition to the new order proceeds peacefully. But these forces will be reduced and eventually withdrawn as local species prove capable of maintaining justice on their own. Zakthon looked up at Jake with something like relief in his large eyes. Admiral, my species has carried the burden of galactic leadership for 3,000 years. We were never suited for it. We became tyrants because we were afraid that without absolute control, chaos would return. Jake felt compassion for the former council leader. The council species were never meant to rule the galaxy. You were meant to serve it as administrators and advisors. Under the Confederation, you can return to that role if you choose. As the formal ceremonies concluded, Jake walked to the great windows that looked out over the capital city. Ships from dozens of species filled the sky, no longer as enemies or oppressors, but as partners in building a better future. Engineer Danny Walsh joined him at the window. Admiral, it is hard to believe this all started because the Council tried to eliminate a few human colonies. Jake smiled grimly. They made the classic mistake of bullies everywhere, Danny. They thought that being peaceful meant being weak. They forgot that sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one who fights for justice instead of personal gain. Dr. Lisa Carter approached with the final records from the ancient archives. Jake, I found the last message from the original Terran Dominion leadership. They said that humans would return when the galaxy needed them most, and that they would be wiser the second time. Jake looked out at the mixed fleet of human and alien ships and felt the truth of those ancient words. Humanity had returned, not as conquerors seeking power, but as protectors seeking justice. The Council's treachery had awakened not just human abilities, but human conscience. The galaxy entered a new age under human guidance, but this time the guidance came through inspiration rather than domination. Species that had lived in fear for centuries began to explore and create again. Trade flourished without exploitation. Conflicts were resolved through law rather than war. And at the center of it all, humanity stood as the guardians of galactic civilization. Not because they were the strongest, though they were. Not because they were the smartest, though they might be. But because they were the only species that had proven they would sacrifice their own power to protect the freedom of others. The Council's treachery had indeed awakened the wrong enemy. They had awakened a species that fought not for dominance but for justice. And in a galaxy where strength served wisdom and power served freedom, there was no force that tyranny could deploy that would ever be enough. The age of the Free Galaxy Confederation had begun, and it would endure as long as humans remembered, the lesson their ancestors had learned at such terrible cost. True strength comes not from the power to rule others, but from the wisdom to serve them.